as we begin to get closer to queer elders than maybe our younger selves, what are your experiences with working and learning from past generations and elders? And in your opinion, how can we best support the progress of the queer community and those who are just starting their journeys in self-discovery?
I would have to say, I am very fortunate that as a trans teen, I got access to trans elders. And, a lot of my trans sisters were my same age, and they're like, oh, girl, I don't care about them old people. And they were doing what they were doing. But I actually listened. And I think I learned so much about how to preserve myself as a person, and understanding the history of the world also impacted making sure that I still take care of myself, even if I'm fighting for longer term change, like so many of us are. And I think we have to listen to our elders because history does repeat itself. And they still have so many perspectives about the ways of which they became themselves authentically. And so, yeah, I think Miss Major is someone that I think everyone needs to know her story. She has a documentary, it's on Amazon Prime and Hulu, I think, called Major. And so learning from her journey and her story has definitely been a huge inspiration for my work.
How can we best support the progress of the queer community and those who are just starting their journeys to self-discovery?
Yeah, I think, subscribing to thought leaders, to trans thought leaders. There's so many different people out there right now. Many of you all already know and love them, like Raquel Willis, India Moore, of course the cast of Pose. And then there's thought leaders in different parts of the country. So I often am seen as a trans expert, but then I'm also learning too. And so we have to maximize those voices, and subscribing to their content, listening to podcasts like Marsha's Plate, which is a Black trans-led podcast. The conversations that they're having, I just feel like are so meaningful and so necessary, and I learned so much as well. And so, yeah, making sure that we're maximizing those voices, I think, is one of the best ways to support. I know that as a trans leader, often the go-to is always to be like, donate, 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 donate. And yes, donating helps in huge ways. But I think there's more that can be done, even if you are not in a position to donate. Of course, volunteering or finding ways for your project to give back to local trans-led orgs, queer-led orgs, in your neighborhoods, in your cities. Those are all examples, I think. Even during the pandemic, there's stuff to do. We just had a bunch of volunteers help us do a bunch of admin stuff. It's the work no one wants to do, but it's such a great help, even if you just do something short term. And so those are ways to support and uplift that work besides donating. But definitely subscribing to trans and queer content creators, because you learn so much from them, and as am I, and B, you're sustaining their work to keep educating us.
And then you've accomplished so much already, and I'm curious, and I'm sure many other people are curious, what's next for you? What do you see coming in the future?
Thank you. I'm in such a tricky space. I'm so grateful, and I'm so lucky to get to do the work that I get to do. And when I was younger, I think because I was like a visible trans person, I felt this burden of representing the entire population of trans people and all the nuances that we carry. And I would do interviews, and they'd be like, what's the one thing they need to know about trans people? I don't know. And so I now am in a space where I'm really grateful and really lucky to get to do the work that I get to do. I get to work with trans artists and queer thinkers and leaders and cheerleaders and philosophers and filmmakers and CEOs who want to do like social responsibility, like all those kind of things. Like, so I'm so grateful. Yeah, I think we have some really big, exciting projects coming at the Transgender District this year, where we've been weathering the pandemic in a great way. But we're launching our housing program, which I'm really excited about. It's permanent housing that we're providing subsidies for. And then we're helping 8, like I said earlier, 8 Black and brown trans people launch their businesses, many of them having sat on these business ideas for over 10 years. One of the participants in our program, she lost her job during the pandemic, and she called me and was like, I need this. This is my lifeline. Like, I'm either going to sit here and just like eat popcorn and like not be able to pay my rent until the rent moratorium is over, or I'm going to like try to learn how to finally see my dream come to fruition. And it's just such a beautiful space to be in, to like still help people manifest their dreams. And then for Kween culture, like, we've struggled because our whole thing, as I'm sure you all can relate to, is about being in person together and having camaraderie and being in space and creating memorable moments in that way. But we're learning how to, finally, a year later, learning how to adapt to virtual space. So there'll be lots of virtual content coming and what have you. And so keeping busy with that. And yeah, I feel like that's what comes next.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, y'all.